So in this video, I'm going to do just a really quick rundown of how you would do a roller set. This wig is actually human hair, so I'm also styling facial hair on it, so it's kind of like an interesting experience right now. But I just wanted to go over the 3 different ways that you can technically like put your rollers down when you're doing a roller set, and then just really quickly how you would put a roller down. I'm gonna go ahead and like finish rolling it off camera, and then once it's dry, I will do another video about how you unroll the rollers and also how you would do a comb out and style on it. So first things first, I went through and I combed this wig out already. Like I said, it is human hair, so technically if I had a wig dryer, I would be able to go in and put it in the dryer. I do not, because I am at home. I do not own a wig dryer at my house. So I'm gonna have to let this one kind of like sit for a second and dry out, and then I'll probably also end up blow drying it a little bit too. If it was synthetic, obviously I would not be able to blow dry it, and I would also have to steam the rollers when I'm done. But this is a human hair wig. I don't know how I ended up with it. I think one of my friends gifted it to me. I had no idea I had it until today. So that'll be kind of helpful for us. But first things first, if you're gonna do a roller set, you're gonna need rollers, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and I will probably use mostly these pink rollers for this one. So I really love these pink rollers. I feel like I use these in most roller sets that I do. They work really well for most of your like general period hairstyles you're going to be doing from like the 20s to like the 50s, where it's a lot of like different variations of curls and waves. Usually when I get to like the back of a wig though, I end up using something a little bit bigger, so I'll probably also use some like larger gray ones as well. But these are super common. They're the mesh ones. I have the little comb removed from them so that they don't get tangly. So I've got a few of these. I also have my little pin tray with like mysterious random pins that I have, right? I love the corsage pins, the pearl tip pins. All of mine are bent because I guess I'm like super rough on all of my wig equipment. It's something I've been doing since internships. I don't know what I do, but apparently I always bend them. But so that's why they look a little weird. But I've got these. I've got some duckbill clips and some smaller ones so that I can kind of section things off. Ideally, I probably wouldn't also have a mustache on this, but again, I am at home and I only have so many wig blocks, and I'm fronting a wig on another one, so we're just gonna enjoy the little scene that I've kind of set up here. I've wet this wig a little bit, but I do have a little spray bottle of water. Ideally, I would have my wig block probably like wrapped in plastic or covered a little bit more, just because I don't want to get a ton of water on this. But again, I'm at my at-home little shop situation, so things are not necessarily as good or as perfect as they could be. To brush through it, I used my Denman. I really love this thing. Obviously, I love it too much because just like my pins, I've also destroyed this. I don't know what I do. And when you're brushing it, so this isn't soaking wet, so it's okay to kind of brush a little bit, but really if this is stopping wet, you want to be combing through it, right? And you always want to start from the ends, and then you can work your way up because you don't want to damage the hair by pulling at it too much from the top. So I'm going to use this comb to help myself make sections while I'm working. And then one other thing that I will show you how to use, I'm going to show you how to use quickly, how to use end wraps. I am not good at them. This will not be the best instructional video in the world for these. But I wanted to at least talk about them. There are many more people who are far more skilled than I am at using these, so this is not your like end all be all video on these. I do have them. I try to use them to keep my ends neat, but I'm really bad at it, so I don't use them a ton. So kind of the first thing I just wanted to talk about was what off base means, on base, and forward of base. Because generally when you're doing a roller set, the most important things you need to know are basically like how are you going to put your rollers in, right? So you always want to start in the front of your wig. So this wig has like a weird like bang sort of situation going on. So it'll probably just end up being some kind of like really wavy thing when I'm done with it. So I'm just going to focus on this side for now because I think the haircut is a little bit more even over here. Whatever you are doing, you want to make sure that when you're taking a section of hair, you are not taking a section that is too large. So when you're taking it, it should not be any wider than the roller that you are putting it on. So if you like pile way too much hair on your roller, you are not going to get the best curl that you can because there's just too much hair and it's just not going to take as well as it could. So something like this is probably not awful. Sometimes I just use my hands to kind of section it off. Angle-wise, sitting down to do this, probably not the best. I prefer to be standing up. But again, just so that you can kind of see everything, this is just the way I'm going to show you. I'm not really going to do the roller set like this. This is just instructional, so you want to make sure you get your little section of hair and you get it nice and wet. Kind of comb back through it. I won't do end wraps for these, but I have a part in this wig, so because it has a part, I can't really like do much to fight that. If there's no part, you want to choose where your part is going to be too. You might be rolling your wig straight back. This one, it's going to be parted off to the sides. That's something else you have to think about. You also want to think about what direction is your hair going to be in. You know, am I going to be rolling it towards the face? Are these curls going towards the face? Not usually. Usually, you're either going to be doing it straight to the side or straight to the back. So the first one I can show you like an example of. I mean, again, this is not the best angle in the world, but I can have my hair to the very end, and if I had my end papers, it wouldn't be so hard to keep my crazy ends in there, but I will use them eventually. And you will see that it's a little bit easier than having to tuck it in. But basically, I'm just going to work this down. And so this one, because I'm going to have it right at the base of the hair, this one would be considered on base, right? Because it is like right at the root, right at the base. So basically, if you're just kind of putting it like straight down, that would be on base, right? So if I was going to do one that was off base, so off base I think is probably a little bit easier. And again, I'm going to have to go back and redo this just because I wouldn't necessarily probably have a roller off base right in the front, because off base just means that it's like pulled back. That's something that I usually feel like ends up happening sort of like at the back. And it just sort of gives you like a looser curl almost, and it's just like a little bit like larger. So sometimes that's nice for like right on like the top of somebody's head. I don't necessarily need it to be like super curly. You might just want like a little bit of it like smoothed out or something in your roller set. So sometimes that ends up like that. I feel like more often than not, things are more like on base when I do them. Honestly, when I'm doing roller sets, am I sitting there in my head being like on base, off base, forward of base? No. I feel like I just kind of like crank it down to whatever seems right. And you just kind of figure it out after a while, and you kind of figure out like where you want curls to be, and what kind of like direction you want everything in. So it's one of those things that like you can learn like the little basic things like this, but the more you do it, you're just gonna find your own ways to do it. Like I feel like when I do roller sets, like they look crazy most of the time, and they're really all over the place, and I'm sure if someone else saw it who did wigs, they would just be like, what are you doing? But they usually like they work out. So I just think it's like one of those things sometimes that like you can be trained how to do it, but then I just think with like everything in like artistry in general, you just kind of figure out what works best for you and what you like to do, and you just kind of like make it work. So this is just like official, I guess, like technical ways to do things, but not by any means is it like the only way that there is to do something. So let's see. So this wig's kind of weird. It's like randomly bald in some places. So it's kind of got a lot going on. But let's say for this one, let's make this one, I think, our off base one. So because I want this one to be off base, I'm gonna have it be more like going back. Again, this is a horrific angle to be doing this from, but just to kind of give you an idea. So if it was gonna be on base, I would just keep cranking it straight down, right? But if I want it to be off base, that basically just means that you're giving yourself like a little bit more space. So this one is like basically like straight down right on the root of the hair, but this one I'm gonna like crank it back a little. That would be off base. There would be no reason that I could think of like styling wise that I would want my wig to have one curl that's going this way and one that's going that way. Generally for the front, I feel like I either have them all going back or I have them all going off to the side. But again, just for our purposes, this is just so that y'all can see the many different ways that you can do your roller sets, right? And then, so if you were going to do one forward of base, this is going to be a little bit trickier to show, I think. So I might try it on our, like, emo bang side. That's how I feel like this looks like. It kind of looks like, oh my god, like the singer from The Used. I don't know if anyone watching this ever listen to The Used or anything like that, but it sort of looks like his hair. I feel like the way that it's like cut, it's a little bit darker, but it's definitely giving me those vibes right now for anyone else who used to listen to music like that back in the day. So if we were gonna do one that was a roller that's gonna be like forward base, or forward of base. This one I feel like is a lot less common. It's really like only if you're like trying to get like a pompadour or something. It's basically like it kind of ends up to the front like that. So I'm gonna make sure I don't get too big of a section of hair. You could be using the comb to do it, but a lot of times I just feel like I end up using my pinkies when I'm sectioning out hair. So like I have my comb next to me, but I'm not necessarily like using it a ton. But it is there in case I need it. And that section's probably a little bit too big. And again, like this wig has some like weird short like bang moments, so it's not necessarily the perfect example for this. And again, this is not the angle you want to do this from. You don't want to have to be this far away. It's not the best, but for what we're doing, this is how we can do it to kind of show things, right? And again, so if it's going to be like forward of base, it's a little hard to show, but it would be sort of something that's like a little bit more like this, where it's just like, instead of being like straight up and down like that, it's pushed forward a little. So let me just show you to kind of try to help control this a little bit. You can get it like a little bit wetter, and so if you're not going to use end papers, let's see, so if we're gonna crank this in, I feel like sometimes even if I'm not using end papers, if I just like kind of like push the hair back in with my finger, I can make it work. Or sometimes what I do, because I literally hate end papers that much, is I will take like the little duck bills and I will like clip the hair down, but sometimes that will put an imprint on the hair, so really using end papers is a little bit better than that. But it's just something I like feel like I never really got good at. But one time I do like to use my comb sometimes is that you can take your little combs and you can kind of crank those like crazy hairs in there. So realistically, I probably would not want to be doing this sort of a roller set on this wig, at least in this part, because that's going to be kind of an odd little situation here, but I could just try to pop these little bangs in there. And again, so I have a bad habit of, like, as you can see, putting the pins directly in the center of it. If you're using pearl tips, I've never had a problem with it putting any kind of like an indentation in my hair. If it is a like T-pin, if you put it right there, it's going to put an indentation. So really putting your pins at the ends of your rollers is going to be better. I don't know, when I learned, this is just how we did it in school, so it's really not the best way to do it or the best habit. But since they're pearl tips, I never feel like it damages my hair. I don't personally own enough pins to where if I did a roller set, I could do 2 pearl tips on the end of these. In a fully stocked wig shop, totally, you could do that. And you could make it, like, much prettier, right? Like, it would be more like this and like this. And, like, now my hair won't be damaged, but realistically, these are expensive, and I don't have a million of them because I'm not doing roller sets all the time, so sometimes you just have to, like, be smart about the way that you're doing it. You can use these even. If I'm ever, like, around lace, I'll try to use, like, a smaller pin just in case any of it accidentally hits my lace. So, again, real quick, let's do, like, one more. So sometimes your rollers get a little crazy, and if they get weird with the spring, you can try to, like, push the spring back where it should be, but they won't always go back in. So something like this, it might be kind of dead. You might not be able to use that. So I still have them around, but realistically, it's not going to give me that great of a curl. Like, this has a little bit of a bend in it, but if it gets like really, really bent in, sometimes you get that weird kind of a shape within your curl, and that's not necessarily what you're going to be looking for. So we're going to take this kind of weirdo section. Again, this wig is like, I really don't know where I got it from. Like, it might be from one of my friends. It might be from college. I'm not really sure. So I'm gonna take probably, I think this much hair will be fine. So with end papers. So if you are someone who is really skilled at using end papers, you'd have like your comb in one hand and then your end papers, and you'd like tuck it in all fancy. I don't think that I could hold a comb and try to do this at the same time. Because it's just really not my thing. But basically, when I do it personally, I like fold it in half, and then you can fold it and not lose the hair that you have. I feel like when I use end papers, I waste more of them on like messing them up or like dropping them on the floor than anything else. So basically, if I'm here, right, not the cleanest in the world, but it's fine. And then I've got it kind of like fold it over, and then I'll sometimes like tuck it under like that too. So I've got this, got my end papers, I'll wet it a little bit more, and then I can take my hair, and then we're just gonna like crank this down. So what the end papers are doing is that is keeping all these like little crazy pieces of hair that pop out in place. And it also just kind of helps you get like a more even curl overall as well, because you don't have to worry about it kind of like shooting out in weird places, or sometimes the curls will get like weird bends at the end of them. You don't have to worry about that if you are using your end papers. So that's not ever how you're probably going to be doing the front of a wig. But hopefully that adds like a little bit of clarity to roller sets. So I always work my way from like front to back. There's a million different ways to kind of do roller sets. It really just depends on like the style that you're going for. I feel like I end up doing like the brick stack a lot, which basically just means like if you look at like a brick wall and the way that it's like there's kind of like one and then there's like one and then the other and then like this and like that, it's sort of if you do it like that, that's going to give you like a really good like S wave usually. As I knock over my entire table, that will give you like a good S wave. That's really good for like a lot of period wigs. Like I said, a lot of times I just kind of like pop it straight back, or I just do something random, and I don't know, hopefully that kind of helps make a little bit of sense. I think it's hard unless you're doing like an exact style and you know exactly what you're trying to do to kind of like show an exact like roller set and everything. So I recommend if you are trying to do like, you know, you're gonna do like a 1930s wig or like a 1920s, I would look up exact directions for that. But I just wanted to make sure that I gave you like a really basic idea of how you would do these. And again, if this was synthetic, I would need to steam every single roller for 30 seconds at least. And you want to make sure that when you're steaming it, if you have a little hand steamer, do not tip it, because remember, like the story I told, if you watch my lecture video, one almost exploded in my face. Most terrifying moment in my life, pretty much. So please keep it upright, and please, that's why we have little stands that move around. Move the wig, don't move the steamer, because if you tip the steamer, it could explode on your face, and that's really terrifying and something that no one should ever have to experience.